Hello everyone, my name is Vera Amesqua, and I'm a graduate student in anthropology and archaeology at Harvard University.
And I am Ekaterina Menkina, a graduate student in anthropology at the University of Alabama.
Today we have the pleasure of presenting our mini-film, which we have been working on for the last 2 years, called
The Light Within the Shadows:
Ritual, Myth, and the Underworld.
We took on the adventure of creating this film to preserve indigenous history by creating 3D modeling of the rock art that was created 2,000 years ago and that we are slowly losing due to limited preservation resources. We want to make the public aware of these hidden treasures so we can all be a part of maintaining art and history alive for indigenous communities today.
In today's film, we will be discussing Paint Rock's landscape and its location to help you get acquainted with the region that we're working with. We will also be discussing Mesoamerican myths that helped influence some of the art of Paint Rock, as well as how archaic cores allow fundamental elements of Mesoamerican ideology to be adopted and transformed into art motifs, which we are currently investigating at Paint Rock. So without further ado, let us begin.
As one of the largest pictograph sites in Texas, Paint Rock is recognized as a cultural gem for containing over 1,500 pictographs, with some art panels dating back anywhere between 2250 BCE and 600 AD. The town, which got its name from the rock site, is located in Concho County, with a population of 229 as of the 2025 census. At Paint Rock, you can find both pictographs and petroglyphs. Pictographs are images or symbols painted or drawn on surfaces like rock faces, cave walls, or cliff to communicate ideas, stories, and important events. Unlike petroglyphs, which are carved or etched into stone, pictographs are created using natural pigments such as minerals, charcoal, or plant-based dyes. During our last 2 trips to Paint Rock, Vera and I embarked on a short drone photogrammetry project which inspired us to consider the meanings and intentions of creating rock art, and how the ancestral communities viewed time, space, and the universe.
When Kat and I first began our research at Paint Rock, we had looked through a lot of photographic data, some which included images that our dear friend Kim Cox had supplied over to us. At this point, we both realized that we had captured a famous traditional tale of heroic gods who triumph over evil. The scenes that captivated us narrate a story of creation, and they bring in supernatural beings who carry the ancient word of the gods and utilize Earth's synchronicity to tell its story. In this remote location, the sun is the narrator. Time and space hold the creation of the world, and we are its spectators.
We really wanted to start at the very beginning of time, when the world began and mythological heroes established social structure and social order of the world. And we wanted to connect ancient mythology and symbols like rock art in hopes that we can uncover those hidden messages that were left behind. And I think this is our own personal way of preserving indigenous history, but then also working on the cultural preservation aspect, because we really want to showcase the indigenous creativity, the spiritual practice, and the myth making that makes Paint Rock such a magical and special place, and also very surreal.
In the ancient text of the Popol Vuh, the daughter of Blood Gatherer named Blood Moon went to see the calabash tree. She wished to pick some of the fruits of the tree, which were forbidden. It is there where one Hunahpu speaks to her and spits into her hand, instantly impregnating her. 6 months later, her father learned of her pregnancy and was outraged. When Blood Moon refuses to tell her father who the father of her child is, he orders her to have her sacrificed. He sends the military keepers of the mat to return with her heart. She pleads for them not to kill her, and she collects nodules of red tree sap and forms a heart and adds croton tree sap to serve as her blood. The military keepers of the mat then return to Blood Gather with a heart made of sap, and they burn it in sacrifice. Blood Moon, having deceived them, flees to Shmukane's house, the mother of one Hunahpu, and tells her that she is carrying one Hunahpu's child. Blood Moon is told to prove that she is carrying one Hunahpu's child by bringing enough food for everyone from the garden, where they have only one maize stalk that had been planted by one monkey and one artisan. Blood Moon then calls upon the guardians of the food, and this allows her to pull a single strand of maize silk from the ear rather than picking off the entire ear. The silk keeps producing maize, and eventually she is able to fill the entire bag. When Shmukane sees Blood Moon return with a bag full of maize, she realizes that she is telling the truth and is indeed her daughter-in-law. Months later, Blood Moon gives birth to Hunahpu and Shpelenke, the famous hero twins.
Oral myths tend to vary considerably from place to place. They may be tailored to different audiences, regions of the world, or even cultural experiences. So it is by no means a surprise that we have different versions of Blood Moon's tale throughout different regions. What is true is that inspiration may be acquired from oral myths and presented in different ways. We see this translated into rituals, symbols, and eventually become oral history that carries purpose. It helps us understand the world and everything in it. There is a version of Blood Moon's tale that offers us understanding of some of the symbolism present at Paint Rock. The book Breath and Smoke explores the use of tobacco among the Maya of Central America, revealing tobacco as a key topic of pre-Columbian art, iconography, and hieroglyphic text that sheds light on the practices still present today, and some of which derive from ancestral times. The version that captivated us was the Hummingbird Tale that depicts Moon as the mother of tobacco, which is conceived as the original intoxicant and medicine of the world. In this tale, Blood Moon transforms via the intoxication of sex. She becomes the honey, and eventually, with the sweetness of it, she becomes Balche. In some version, she becomes the mother of bees, mother of maize. She's the mother of all curative or destructive forces. But above all, it makes her the patroness of a lot of important aspects into Mesoamerican life.
In the Hummingbird Tale, Lord Kin spies the girl Shaktani weaving in the courtyard of her house and determines to have her. At first, he tries to impress her with his hunting prowess and grabs her attention. Impressed by his apparent hunting skills, she comments on it to her father, who is a powerful sorcerer. Suspecting a trick, her father induces her to take some nishtamal, which is a lime water from soaking maize kernels for grinding, and throw it on the path where Kin passes each day. Kin slips on it and falls and runs away in shame. Still desiring the maiden, Kin borrows the skin of a hummingbird and transforms himself with it. Shaktani sees the hummingbird sucking the nectar of the flowers of a tobacco plant, which was grown from the mixture of lime water and the ashes of the deer stuffing he was carrying at some point. Desiring to have the handsome little bird, she asks her father to shoot it with his blowgun. He does so. Dropping her weaving to the ground, the girl picks the bird up and revives him with maize and cacao. She takes him to her bedroom, where he resumes his human form and persuades her to elope with him. That night, they set forth and escape in a canoe. His father, finding out that they elope, sends Chok, the god of rain, and Storm to strike them dead. Kin turns the girl into a crab, and he transforms into a turtle. But Chok's lightning strikes Shaktani, blowing her into pieces. With the help of the dragonflies, they place her remains in 13 jars and leaves them in an old woman for 13 days. Upon his return, the jars are buzzing and humming. One by one, the jars are opened. All types of insects and snakes come out of the jars, and Shaktani is one of the very last one, very tiny in size. Kin orders a man to throw the jars in the river, but he ends up opening all of them out of curiosity and releases all the vermin into the world.
I think it is important to note that myths evoke such a force within ancestral societies that it helps them lay down the groundwork of how to maintain a society operational and sustainable. And it materializes this new reality through myths. If they can imitate this behavior, then it allows it to become real in nature, and all of a sudden life, the environment, all of it has purpose, and it carries intrinsic value because it helps them connect to the cosmic rhythms of the world and adapt. Symbols we see at Paint Rock have the ability to withstand time. They leave us with remnants of a hard nucleus that forms fundamental values, beliefs, and practices. They serve as cultural units that identify the relationships established via cosmovision and provide messages through iconography, narrating stories of the construction of the old world, making it anew with each cyclical solar ceremony we witness at Paint Rock.
Investigations that Vera and I have conducted at Paint Rock really come to show the typology of iconography. They establish connections with the gods in different worldly planes, making reproduction of these pictographs a ritual event where sympathetic magic comes to play through an altered state of consciousness. It also reveals the possibility that shamanic priests may have shared some sacred places together and perhaps borrowed from each other's core elements, depicted through visions. That is why it is really important to look at the thick description of each individual messages, because styles vary, and sometimes the stylistic deviations we see does not only signify a different author, but also how they are illustrating a different message.
For example, at Paint Rock, you do see images of the sun that vary drastically. There are some that illustrate shapes inside of the sun that sometimes make it look like a clock, especially when you have sunlight daggers that hit right in the middle of it. There are other times where the inside of the sun is painted in black, which perhaps could be detailing an event in the sky, maybe a solar eclipse. And then there's other ones that beg us to question the intentions. There are some that look like sun shields, which could be narrating a combat between enemies, or possibly a coup taking place for the dethronement of a particular regional priest. It just kind of depends on the thick description of the panel itself.
What we do know is that these symbols contain sacred messages and remain deeply significant to their descendants, who visit the rock art to connect with their heritage, honor their ancestors, and continue cultural practices rooted in these sacred places. These paintings meant something really important to the people who made them, and we want to honor their art, rituals, and practices with this film.